So on today's episode of Pure Fab Arts and Crafts, what we got going on here is we're drawing all over the ground. So, on my truck, I haven't really got too much done just yet. I would have liked to bead roll these panels myself, but I don't have a bead roller yet. So I went ahead and ordered these from Heart Fab. So I wanted to clean the firewall up real good, get rid of all the divots and holes that are unnecessary in it to make it a cleaner look. So I only need the master cylinder and the steering column to come through here, and I'll tuck the wire and harness back behind the motor going through the firewall. I like aircraft rivets and kind of wanted to spruce the truck up a little bit, so scribed a mark on each side of them, drilled all the holes, put some aircraft rivets in there, and turned out pretty good. Goes with the wheels a little bit, bead locks. Patch panel for the floorboard, got to put that in that spot down there. Once that's done, the cowls on this side's done, then the passenger side will be done. I can go on and move on to the driver's side. Do a little bit more metal work on that. And that's where the fun begins of cutting the back off. Now I can do a full back half. That'll be fun. Cut the back half of the truck off, so now it's a half truck. For now. Take a break from sheet metal work and get this back half going. Pretty stoked about that. I know a lot of people have seen the kind of tube work that I do and stuff like that, and I like to make things wild and crazy and different than everybody else's, so looking forward to see what I can do with this thing and make it pretty cool. So made my measurements where I needed to. Axle center line, cut it off. It's still a little long right now. That way I can get the big half off. Then I'll cut that off smooth where it needs to be. Mock the two tubes up. Right now we're in the process of making slugs to go in between the frame. So that'll be slug ever so often down the frame. That's my wife right there, Brooke. She's over here helping me work on the truck. She's as anxious as I am to get it on the road. So
Anxious to finish it or anxious to get the project done?
Both, because she wants to be the first to drive it. So
he puts me to work all the time.
I'm gonna make the 4-link bracket on the frame side, kind of tie in like that, notch the bracket out up here, bring a tube down and kind of tie it all together. And since the frame runs right on top of the axle side brackets, I gotta make 2 more bends on these frame sections right here. So I'll make a little 22.5 or a little kick right here and then kick back to get out from under the 4-link bracket there. Make room for the coil over and the anti-roll bar. From there, once I get the frame rail set in place and get all the slugs welded in, I'll jig it up on the frame machine. Kind of come here, once the frame rails are done, and start making a drive shaft hoop. I come off the frame, tubes here tie into the drive shaft hoop there, and then make some kind of crazy design with the back half there for the anti-roll bar and the shocks and cross member here. And once that's done, I'll tie the frame back together back here. I'm gonna take these brackets right here and cut 2 holes. That way the tube is the same spread and all the slugs are the same. I'm gonna bring this other plate, cut the 2 extra holes. That way it's sandwiching the 2 bars inside the frame. It's gonna be higher than what the bumper is gonna be, so I'll have to make brackets down to the bumper. So what I'm doing right here is, for one, I'm using a straight edge on the concrete for my center line of the frame, and my body mounting position mark would be right here. My axle center line is right here, and what I'm doing is I'm drawing this out because I have to make 2 more bends in these 2 pieces of tubes right here. Because if I want the truck to squat, then the brackets will hit the frame. And I want to draw it out on the ground, that way I know exactly where I want them, instead of guessing. Basically, it's more precise if I draw it out on the ground and get it more exact. That way I know everything is where I want them to be, my bends are where I want them to be, roll cages, whatever the case is, and bend the tube, and I'll set the tube right on top of my drawing, and that's where I want it. And always, 99% of the time, works out pretty good, unless the tube gets overbent just to by a hair, but you know, sometimes that can get fixed. But other than that, get back to some arts and crafts and see where I need to put these tube bends at. What this guy is this helps out a ton. This is actually a JD squared bendicator, and this is made for a 1 3/4 die, and it also do an 1 5/8 die at the same time. You can put this anywhere you want to with given room. Obviously, if you're doing a cage or something like that, you can't always have the best perfect angles because of how, you know, the 2 sides right there are. If you're putting it up against somewhere tight, you're not gonna be able to get in there. You got to do a little different approach. But this gives you your angles from 0 to 90 degrees, and even past that to 180 if you wanted to. So it'll give you your 0 point, and it'll also give you another 0 point to where you want that bend to start, and when you bend that, it'll stop. So with this tool right here, I can draw everything out on the ground and give me a visual of how exactly that pipe's gonna land, and there's no questions asked, that's where it's gonna be. So got my drawing all laid out, and from my body mount to the center of where I want my axle was 42.5. So I drew that out. This line representing the axle center line, from the center of the bracket to the end of the bolt would be 1 inch. So split the bracket in half, being the width of the bracket, cut 1 inch from the center all the way to the outside of the bolt, and this line represents the outside of the bolt. Without drawing this out and just going by an eye, if you bent these tubes up, this tube could be closer to that bolt, so whenever you get squat, this tube would actually hit that under squat. I can measure from my last bend to where the bend's gonna start and bend that, and that's exactly where that bend's gonna be. And after that bend right there, that 20-degree bend's bent, I can measure from that bend to the next bend another 20 degree, and that's exactly where this tube's gonna meet. So once I get this bent up, then I'll have 3/4 of an inch between that tube and that bracket at full squat, if the truck goes that far. Mapping everything out takes a while. You got a bunch of different things going through your head to make sure it's gonna work right. Sweet.
Dude, you ordered some parts, dude?